G'day guys, kia ora. My name is Wildkard and welcome back to some rugby news. So this is June 1st, 2021. So some big news came out in the last week or so that the Lions tour has been reshuffled to make the schedule less travel heavy for the teams to accommodate for the pandemic. As you can see, the updated schedule showing here on my right, okay, on your screen here. So you can see that the original schedule was Stormers, South African Invitational, Sharks, South African A, Bulls, and then Springboks in Johannesburg, Springbok in Cape Town, and then Springboks in Johannesburg again. This has been reshuffled so that the team has to travel less throughout the tour. There is also a warm-up match being added before the actual schedule. So the British and Irish Lions will play Japan only about 2 weeks away, actually, in Edinburgh, in front of apparently 15,000 fans. We're going to have a look at that in a minute. And the first game is now against the Lions, or if you're an old school rugby fan, the Cats from Super Rugby. So the reason being is that the South African Invitational would require for players from all over the country, from different parts, to conglomerate. And it's really hard to keep that as safe as possible. So they decided to scrap that team and just replaced it with the Lions, which is pretty nice. And this will be played in Johannesburg. And followed by a second game will be played in Durban against the Sharks. And third game will be played against the Bulls in Pretoria. The fourth game we play against the South Africa A in, I think they changed this one as well. This one might be in Johannesburg or something. We'll have a look. And then the fifth game will be against the Stormers in Cape Town. I think some of these locations has been changed. I think South Africa A will be played in Cape Town. And then the sixth game will be played against the Springbok, which is the first test. The dates are still the same, 31st of July, and it'll be in Cape Town. The dates will be the 24th of July in Cape Town. And then the second game will be played, second test for the Springboks will be played the 31st of July, and it'll be in Johannesburg. And it'll be in Johannesburg. Whilst the last game remains the same in Johannesburg on the 7th of August. However, the venue has been changed. It'll also be in FNB National Stadium. So 2 games in Johannesburg in the same stadium, back-to-back, to finish off the series. So that's the changes to the Lions tour that was updated, I think, about a week or so ago. And still pretty good. I think I'm very excited to see Japan playing in the tour and see how that will fare. So, yeah, and also going into the more Lions news, the entire British and Lions team will get 2 jabs of the vaccine before they head over. They're getting their first jab, I think, a week ago. And they will be getting another jab before they're heading over to South Africa. And yeah, despite the fact that the jab is not available for people in Europe, I think in Great Britain, for people under the age of 30. So I think like Alan Wynne-Jones is the only one who's actually qualified to get to get the jab. And then but they made an exception for the team to get everybody vaccinated, which will really help keep all the players safe and healthy, which is good to see. And the next thing is obviously the as I've mentioned, the warm-up match, or maybe we can call this the opener instead of calling it a warm-up. This is the opener match against Japan in Murrayfield, in Edinburgh, in Scotland, right? And this will be played in front of 16 and 500,000 fans. So 16,500 fans. And this will be quite a match to see. The Japan national team haven't played since the World Cup. So this will be the first game they've played, kind of like South Africa. This will be the first game they're going to be playing since the World Cup in 2019. However, Japan has had a domestic league that was introduced, the top league, and they have injected a lot of foreign talent in the league, and the skill level has really increased overall for the Japanese players from the massive injection of international players, and they're very, very top talent. Bowden Barrett, Bernard Foley, just to name a few. I think there was like a lot of very, very good international players. Kieran Reid was in there. To really bolster the competition in Japan. So the Japanese team will be ready. I think will be ready to play. So the squad has been announced for Japan, and a 36-man team will go over to Scotland, and the Lynch, Michael Lynch is the captain. This guy, and it'll be interesting to see. Here's the name, the squads. I am not gonna pretend that I know everybody, but I've watched a little bit of the top league. The skill, you can see that the foreign players really shined in those leagues, but the domestic players have definitely benefited as well. And if the Lions decides to put on the bench to play the Japanese team, we could see potentially a little bit of an upset here. I'm not going to be surprised if the Japanese team put on a good show. So that's the news for the British and Irish Lions. Let's go over to across the Tasman to New Zealand. So New Zealand has appointed a new chairman. Stewart Mitchell. So this guy. So he will probably be the villain that pushes through the Silver Lake All Blacks sales deal. Not too sure why they decided to change the chairman at this point of this particular point. Has to be something to do with the deal, and he's probably going to be the villain that does everything and then gets fired or whatever. I don't know. He's probably the bad guy. So remember this guy. He may be the guy that eventually sells out the national treasure. But yeah, that's the news. And we'll go over. There's some other news from the Wallabies. So the meme has finally become a reality. The Wallabies are sponsored by Cadbury. They ended their partnership with Qantas for 30 years. And obviously, due to the pandemic, Qantas is making very little money. And Cadbury Chocolate decides to come in to take the sponsorship. And quite a perfect statement of Wallaby players made of chocolate inside. Regardless, the money is definitely needed for Rugby Australia. Just to see some, and interestingly, this deal showed a bit of numbers. I thought it was interesting. There was 460,000 people watching the Super Rugby Grand Final in Channel 9. Yeah, that's compared to AFL Grand Final of 3.8 to 4.2 million. That's a tenth of the viewers, like almost a tenth, like probably more than a tenth, like 1/12 to the peak, right? Like 12% of the peak, like of AFL, and the NRL Grand Final was 2.9 to 3.4. Again, just a fraction of the viewership of the other two codes. Yeah, Australian rugby has a lot of work to do. That's really, really poor. And finally, let's have a look at the Super Rugby results. Super Rugby Trans-Tasman restarted on Friday with the Hurricanes hosting the Western Force. And so this round was kind of like the Wildkard round, where each team was supposed to play in a different stadium than the home stadium. Except for some reason, the Blues played at Eden Park, which is their home stadium. I'm not sure why they didn't play somewhere else. But anyway, the Hurricanes played Western Force at McLean Park. And the Western Force really did fall apart. Looked like they were burnt out from a couple of weeks of really, really tough competition. Hurricanes just ran over the Force with 7 tries. So some match stats: Hurricanes double the run meters, 12 clean breaks, over 4. The fact that the Rebels didn't do that many more tackles than the Hurricanes show that the Hurricanes just, and this stats really shows, right? You only did about 20 extra tackles, but you gave away an extra 300 meter in defense. So the defense was really poor for the Western Force. Both teams had bounced some missed tackles, and it was quite. That's probably the most telling stats there. Second match of the weekend was the Waratahs playing the Crusaders at Wind Stadium in Wollongong, next to the beach. Quite a nice stadium. A bit of wind was involved in the game. The Waratahs, the Crusaders started slow, maybe due to the wind. And then there was a brief period before, just after half time, where the Waratahs played really, really well and put on a couple of nice tries, back-to-back tries. However, the Crusaders was too clinical. And 7 tries, Crusaders, over the Waratahs. Quite a dominant performance once again. Not as bad as the Reds game, but again, almost 700 meters to the 350. And as you can see, poor defense once again. The Waratahs only did 5 extra tackles than the Crusaders, but gave away over 300 meters. That's really, really poor defense once again. The defense seems to be an issue in all Australian teams. The teams probably not do enough tackling practice. This is a game that I was really disappointed at. Brumbies versus the Blues. The third game at Eden Park. The Brumbies played really, really, really poorly. The Blues put on 5 tries against Brumbies. I expected the Brumbies to win this one, considering the form of the Blues hasn't not really been in tip-top shape. Whilst the Brumbies had a really good performance against Crusaders a couple weeks ago. Had a bad one last week against the Chiefs, but I was expecting them to do a lot better. Overall, it was close, but the Blues were just a little bit more clinical in their plays and able to execute with points. That's pretty much what happened. The Brumbies attack looked really lacking, and they weren't able to capitalize. They were just making small mistakes here and there and allowing the Blues to get out of jail quite easily. So Brumbies attacking was really poor. And a bunch of stupid kicking as well from the Brumbies, not really valuing the ball. And this is a big upset on the weekend. And that's the Reds versus the Chiefs. The Reds came out of the game with a very, very good start. Put on, I think it was 33 points to 3 at halftime, dominating the Chiefs. Damien McKenzie, very unluckily, got a red card for a high shot on Tate McDermott, which was, according to the rules, that is a red card. And that has led to the Chiefs really suffering for quite a lot in the first half. However, the second half, especially towards the end of the second half, the Reds put on their reserves, and the reserves from the Reds really, really was a big, big gap between their skill level, was big gap below Super Rugby requirements. And the Chiefs literally almost caught up and beat the Reds in the dying minutes of the game. It was very poor. When the Reds came on, you can see the Chiefs, all the tries were scored in the second half, and within just 15 minutes, Chiefs scored 4 tries, unanswered tries. It was really poor performance by the Reds reserves and almost cost them the game. So it was quite bad. Let's have a look at the match stats. Both teams had a pretty big run meters, whilst the Chiefs got most of them from the second half. Pretty even in carries, defenders beaten. That just piled up in the second half as well for the Chiefs. It was pretty much a game of 2 halves. Pretty even turned out overall, but the second half would be extremely one-sided for the Chiefs, and the Reds reserves were really poor, really, really poor. Almost cost them, as you can see, only 1 try away converted try away from losing the game. And Brad Thorne reportedly was not happy after the game. So Belgium playing Netherlands, I don't know. Who cares? And then the final game was played on Sunday. This game has to be shifted around to play in a different venue due to travel restrictions to Melbourne, or by the Melburnians. So again, Highlanders put on quite a clinical performance against Melbourne. The Rebels played really well during in like small periods where Corin Betty went over for a couple tries, his first try of the season, and he ended up backing up with another one in the same game. So there were periods where Melbourne played really well, and then eventually it was a yellow card that resulted in the downfall of Rebels. So the game was pretty close going to halftime. I think it was 14 points to 12, or maybe it was pretty close at halftime. Game on, and then after the halftime, Melbourne were actually ahead with the penalty. I think it was like 15 points to 12, and then with the penalty kick, and then the Rebels were under pressure, and their hooker just basically cracked under pressure. A grown man, it was pretty embarrassing to see. A grown man cracked under pressure, and he committed a professional foul. He got penalized for offside, which was not really that big of a deal, and he got frustrated, and he kicked the ball out of the ruck in the offside position to prevent the Highlanders from playing advantage. Instant yellow card. There really isn't a discussion for that. That's just really piss poor from him. And that basically cost the Rebels. That's where a spur of tries was scored. The penalty try, this whole S section there, was scored by the Highlanders because of that one yellow card. And yeah, really poor. Really choked. And the Rebels probably had a opportunity to potentially come back right towards the end. Tamura also missed the conversion for this try at 76th minute, which was really, really important, because if he had got that conversion, then the Rebels were actually one try away from winning. And then they, instead of, keep the pressure up and build on it, they fell apart, allowing Highlanders to counter with their own try at the 78th minute. Yeah, again, Rebels has that issue of not being able to handle pressure, and this game really exemplified that issue within the team. And I think, again, I've mentioned this again and again every week, it's a culture issue inside the team, something to do with the management. The expectations are not laid out to the players, and and that's basically what happens. You have players that committing professional fouls, Matt Tamura not getting a critical conversion, not understanding the importance of it, and and then letting the whole team just fell off, despite the fact that they were still in it with 4 minutes to go. Just fell off and letting Highlanders score, and they almost let Highlanders score another try in the dying second as well. So it was really piss poor. But anyway, that's kind of like what's happened in the last week or so in rugby. Thank you for watching this update, and I'll see you guys later this week for the next round of Super Rugby. Cheers.